Hi everyone, it's Lisa Moeller with MedMark, and today we are so very honored to have the man, the legend, Mr. Tony Robbins with us today, and I thank you so much for joining us.
Good to see you again.
It's so great to see you.
Thank
so
you.
great to see you.
Thank you.
So congratulations on your movie.
Thank you. It's not my movie. It's about me, but I didn't make it, so I can't take credit for it.
Well,
yeah.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, how much more can you do? I mean, you can cross this one off the bucket list now, or?
Well, no, I'm excited because we've been to 16 film festivals. We won all these awards, but what's more important than all that is seeing people. You know, Date with Destiny is my favorite seminar, and I only do it once a year. I see 200,000 people a year in 15 countries, and then I do this one program for 2,500 people for 6 days and nights, like total immersion. It feels like my living room because the other events, as you know, are 8,000 to 10,000 people or more. So it's just, I love it, and it's like to be able to have that go out to millions of people with Netflix starting tomorrow. It'll be in 190 countries translated simultaneously.
That's amazing.
So it's a chance to really have a really nice impact where people literally all over the earth can have a little taste of this, and people that watch it, when you go to a great movie and you feel the characters and whatever they experience, you start to feel it, you witness it through them. And I like, movies that are based on a true story, although sometimes that's a bit liberal on their part. This is the true story. These are real people in real time creating these huge transformations. And the man who made the film is named Joe Berlinger, and he's got, he's Academy Award nominated and Emmy winning 7 times, Emmy nominated 2 winnings, 2 Peabodys. He made Paradise Lost. I don't know if you ever saw that. Mm-hmm. He made the Metallica documentary.
Movie, yeah.
I did too, and I love that. And he's just a genius. And I didn't really believe you could take 6 days of 13-hour days and create something really powerful in 2 hours, but he did it.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So you saw it?
Oh, yes. I watched it twice, actually.
Oh, that's so incredible.
I've told you this before, I've been a fan of yours since the 80s. And,
wow.
And
I'm complimented. Thank you very much.
You are a best-selling author, a life strategist helping millions of people. You're a huge philanthropist. I mean, feeding millions and millions of people now.
Yeah, we've had 100 million people last year alone just in the United States. So
that's amazing.
I'm going to feed another 100 million this year with my partnership with Feeding America, and I've got a plan to feed 1 billion people over the next 9 years. We'll have 250 million people fed by the end of this year. So it's really exciting.
That's just got to be personally.
Well, considering
so
I had no food when I was 17 for Thanksgiving, or 11 when I was 11 years old for Thanksgiving, so I started feeding people at 17, and it was 2 families initially, and it just altered my life. I had so much joy to see that happen, because to have my family be fed when we had nothing changed my entire view of life. It's like if strangers really do care, and it affected the direction of my life, and I always promised myself I'd find a way to give back, and it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And then when I wrote Money Master the Game, I spent 4 years interviewing self-made billionaires. All the people start with nothing and the most successful on earth, and I'm watching them cut food stamps simultaneously by, I think it was $6.8 billion, which is like everyone who gets some financial support where they really do need it, not people who are abusing it. All of them lose a meal a month for a week's worth of meals every month. So I'd fed 42 million people in my life, and I thought, what if I could do that in a year? And then I wrote the book, and I donated a $5 million advance. I donated the advance, and then I got more expired, so I wrote bigger checks beyond that and fed the 100 million. And now I've got this system laid out to feed the billion. So it's the thing I'm most excited about actually right now in my life.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
When you can do something so touching and philanthropic with that, and just turn so many lives around,
Well, the reason we wanted to make the film was I thought we're in such divisive times. And when people go to Date with Destiny, one of the things that Joe Berlinger experienced, by the way, Joe he makes stories about the underbelly of society. Like Paradise Lost is about 3 innocent men that are put on death row, and he spends 20 years and he gets them out. Mm-hmm. I mean, his film's responsible for putting the facts out there. And he did the Whitey Bulger piece showing the FBI actually manipulated all that. He takes on the toughest subjects, and by his own description, he said, I'm a hardcore New York Jewish pessimist. And so, but he came to the event, and it transformed him, and then he just wanted people to see that this was raw and real. And with all the divisiveness going on, you get in that room, and there are people from 71 countries at the last one, to give you an idea. We translated 6 languages simultaneously, and you see all the barriers between people drop. Black, white, yellow, Latin America, it doesn't matter. Everybody there becomes one. And when you watch the film, I think people feel that. They feel this. They go in wanting to change things for themselves, selfish motives, but self-deserving. Want to improve yourself. But you leave there in the midst of it and you become so committed to everybody else's growth and success as well as your own. And that feeling is something you never felt before. And I really think that's a three-dimensional experience. Film's two-dimensional. But I think he really converted the spirit of that in this film, and I think that's why some people are going like, you've gone it twice, and I believe this last week came out there, we saw people at the screenings who've been to 9 screenings, 7 screenings in a week.
Wow.
Just saying it changed her life. One woman got up and she talked about she had cancer and she was giving up in the film. She was in tears half the film, and then started laughing, and she said she just found her touchstone for how she's going to continue because she'd given up. And she came in knowing, what is this BS? Who is Tony Robbins? I don't need any motivation. That's what she thought it was. So it's really fulfilling to see that there's going to be all these people that can be touched by this in a way that's leveraged.
Well, yeah, if they can't get to your seminars or have never been, I mean, that's like an Insta
they can
seminar.
sit in their bedroom and flip it on, and it costs them nothing. It's on Netflix. If you got Netflix, if it doesn't, you can spend $8.
Right. It was really powerful. I mean, the interventions that you did were amazing.
Which one stuck out?
Dawn, of course.
Yeah, the young woman, for those watching, who was from Brazil, who was in there's a cult called the Children of God, and what they do to children there is mind-boggling, and what she went through is mind-boggling. I want to give it up for the film, but her transformation, I just saw her. She's a different human being. You would not even recognize her. She's just awesome. So transformed. She helped her mother and she helped her brother, who were also suicidal, and got them out. Wow. So it's been exciting to see.
Wow.
One of my deals with the director was, I'll let you do this. You got an all access pass. I have no control. You make whatever you want to make. But I want you to wait a year and follow up a year later to show where these people are today, because most people think change takes forever. Like people say to me, it took me 10 years to change. And I always go, bullshit, it took you a minute. It took you 10 years to get the minute where you said no more, or I quit, or let's do it, or I love you, or I do. That's where your life changes, And then even if it does happen quick, people think it won't last. So I said, I know it'll last. I've done it for 39 years. And he was a little bit concerned, I said, don't be concerned, just do it. And he finally agreed. And the best part of the film for me is seeing where these people are today. Again, I can't give it away. I want people to see the film.
Yeah.
But there's some really cool things that happen in these people's lives a year later. So you see that the impact is continuous.
Yeah. I was in tears. It was amazing.
That's
it
great.
really was.
That's great.
So how can we segue this into, just general business today in this day and age? I mean, I know myself as an entrepreneur, I don't even want to turn on the TV because there's so much negative energy being thrown at us. And, dentists and doctors and, I feel it, sometimes when I walk into their offices. I mean, the first line for them is the person at the front desk, right? If they're all like slouched over and a big, frown on their face and they're just hating life, that's trickling down from the top, right?
Yeah.
And so how would you speak to that? And just how can they have a better practice, be better business owners in this day and age?
Well, there's lots of places to hit that from, but one of the things I do these programs all over the world, in China and London, here in the U.S. These kind of it's called business mastery, but it really is boot camp for business owners, because most of us as business owners, especially professionals like dentists or doctors, chiropractors, what you find for them is they're some of the hardest working people, but they never really learned to run a business. And I'm the same way. They're usually artists. Like, I'm an artist at my core. Artist meaning my art is helping people change their lives. And the dentist has worked a lifetime to develop this skill and this compassion and this art. But then there's the running of the business. And you spend all this money going to school to become a great dentist, but no one teaches you. And so most dentists are in a position where it really isn't a business. They're self-employed. When you own a business, you got to be a business owner. When you're a business operator, which most professionals are, where you're the one running the business and you're in the business and it's your skill set, most people like that get stressed out and overwhelmed. And the statistics on suicide and in the dental business. That isn't just the business side. I really believe that also relates to the types of materials that they deal with. We can talk about that later, because I just had an interesting health scare that I'd like to talk about at some point, because I'd like to plant a seed with dentists and see if I can help them in what's going on. But I think you have to decide, I am going to master this thing called business and not feel like it's the most overwhelming thing, even though it looks like it. It was overwhelming to drive a stick shift car in the beginning, for me at least. No experience. I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do this, shift this, put the gear,
brother taught me.
and watch the rear view mirror simultaneously. It's not going to happen, right? But after a while, it becomes each of these individual things, these 12 things is one thing called driving, and your brain's freed up to, do everything like even text, unfortunately, but people are freed up. So I think the same thing is true in business. I take people in 5 or 6 days and put them through immersion. So now what can they do? I think the first thing you have to realize is that the chokehold on the growth of your business is always the owner. It's always the leader. And 80% of that chokehold on the growth of your business is your own psychology, your own fears, your own limits, your own, I've tried everything, your own stories. When I say psychology, it just really means emotions and stories that we create for ourselves that keep us from maximizing what we're capable of. We convince ourselves we've tried everything and we haven't. But innovation is the secret to really growing anything. You got to innovate and you got to market. And as a dentist, you got to say, same as myself, I have a gift, they have a gift, I have a talent, but my talent is going to die on my lips or die in my hands unless I can find a way to market that, to get people to want to do business with me. And what makes people do that today more than anything else besides relationship and referral is innovation. And so if I was a dentist today, I would be saying, what's my 3, 4, 5 steps? My first step is I need to decide that I'm going to own this business, not just be the dentist. That I'm going to take the time over the next year or year and a half, put myself in some environments where I learn the things I don't know so I can feel comfortable, so I can feel like I can make this thing happen. And there's no conflict between being a great healing professional and being a successful business person. And the way I would do it first is I'd get myself in those environments, but the minimum I do is I'd want to know more about my clients than they know about themselves. I know a man that from Australia decided, he was a dentist, and he decided he was tired of people not showing up. He was tired of trying to bill and not getting paid, properly from various insurance. He was tired of all these things. And one day, he just decided to sit down with every one of his patients one-on-one, and he said, I'm changing my practice. I'm going to do a practice where I'm going to take a lot less clients and let go of probably half the clients I have right now. I only want to do business with people who I personally like, who when they come in, I want to sit down, have a cup of tea with them, understand what's going on in their life, what their goals are, and I want to make sure that everything in my psyche is taking care of them and helping them augment the way they look, the way they feel, and their vitality and the health of their system. And he sat down and said, so to do that, I want you to know I have some simple things. I'm promising I'll give you the best dental care of your entire life. I'm promising that if you come in your appointment, you will not be delayed more than maximum of 5 minutes ever. And he laid out all these things. I'll give you the best care, the most attention. He goes, but this is what I'm going to require for patients that work with me. I'll refer them out to someone else if this is uncomfortable. He said, I require that if they cancel, they're going to have to pay for it. I require they show up on time because I'm going to respect them, they respect me. I'm going to also require that in the next 6 months, that if I do the quality work I promised, they'll give me 2 referrals from 2 other quality people that I'd probably want to take care of as well. And he said, I'm shutting down any other form of my business, and I'm going to spend more quality time with you, and I want the referrals because I don't want to spend time marketing and selling. I want to spend time putting my attention and making your life better. He quadrupled his income and cut the time he spent doing dental work by more than 60%.
I believe that.
Just because he became an owner who owned his business instead of running around trying to please everybody and being frustrated that people are canceling and so forth.
Right.
And most of us just don't own ourselves enough, right? But I would say, 1, figure out who your clients really are. We know that 90% of decisions made around health issues are by females. We've got to know who's making those decisions. We've got to know more about what do they want, what do they fear, what do they desire, and how do we meet those needs for them. We need, number 2, align with what people spend money on. And most people don't go to the dentist till they have to, but where the profits are, as you well know, is elective dentistry, right? And so saying, what are the innovations that I can find a way to bring leverage so that I have a reason for people to come see me different than everybody else or better than everybody else? I look at a third thing for me. I'd say, okay, if I know who my clients are, and if I've got, something that's innovative now, what's the people interface look like? What you just said. How do it's not the person you hire, as they always say, it's the person you fail to fire that messes you up. The person at that front desk, they might be a really nice person, but if they aren't someone who connects with people, if they're not somebody who they naturally have a natural effervescence, it's not fake, it's not phony, if the wrong person in the wrong seat, they might be a good person, they might belong in another seat, but they can't be the person up front connecting with people. Right. And you have to make those decisions and go find that person and replace them, because the people interface is everything. A fourth thing that somebody might consider doing to start to take control of their business is to say, okay, the largest trend, once again, is 92% of the people in this culture believe their smile is a very important element. Then how do I reorient not just to maintenance and support, but what do I do to making somebody more attractive? I mean, another element. So I go through a dozen different approaches. I think what has to happen is someone has to first say, I'm not going to tolerate the way I have run my business in the past. I'm better than this. I deserve more than this. My staff deserves more than this. And there is a way. Because what most people do is they get to a place of learned helplessness. They'll tell themselves, I try everything. I always tell people, if you want to have a breakthrough in your business or your life, you need three things. Most people say, okay, I want to break through, I want to lose weight. They look for how to do it. They look for the strategy. I'm a strategist. I spent my whole life, you got one of my books here, it's nothing but strategies, right? It took me 4 years. I got the best financial strategies from the very best people on earth, Warren Buffett, Carl Icahn, you name it. So I believe in strategy, but how to do something is the wrong sequence to start with. Like, what's the strategy for being fit and healthy? It's not that complex, and yet 70% of the U.S. is overweight. It's like,
you just have to do it.
It's not a strategy problem. What it is why aren't they doing it? It's because they have a story. And everyone does this. Entrepreneurs, business people, everyone does this. When we get fearful, when we've tried something and we're not succeeding as fast as we want, when we are afraid of failing, we come up with a story about how it's not our fault or how we're going to do it in the future, because then we don't have to feel bad. Feeling bad makes us have to deal with it. Most people are overwhelmed, so they come up with a story about, I tried everything. If you tried everything, you'd be fit. You'd be healthy. Yeah. I tried millions of things. Millions, name them. 3 things they did 50 times that don't work, right? But I think if you can come up, when you change the story, when you come up with a new set of beliefs, you'll find yourself finding the strategy or using the strategies that already work that are there that right now your mind says, oh, it won't work. And the best way to change people, you got strategy, story, is state. And I always share this with business owners. You've got to be able to produce a different state in your people. There has to be something compelling. There has to be a sense of mission. Tony Shea at Zappos is one of my dear friends, and he took over Zappos when it seemed like the dumbest idea in the world. We're going to sell women's shoes over the web. Now, everybody said, well, what's wrong with this picture? They got to try them on, right? It's like, it's never going to happen, not in a million years. Right. And Tony said to them, let me tell you something. You guys have been in this business and you've been failing, and so all you see is failure. You think you've tried everything. You've tried everything. He said, you try something radically different. He said, here's what we're going to do. Yes, they need to try them on. So we're going to pay for the shipping. We're going to change the offer. I always tell business people, change your offer, change your business. Change your offer, change your life. Apple did a 99-cent offer and changed the music business overnight. There's so many ways to do it, to make an irresistible offer that makes people say, I want to do business with you. And what he did is, and they all looked at him and said, we can't do that. And he goes, and there'll be no limit on how many shoes they can take. No limit, and we're going to pay the shipping. He goes, oh yeah, and if they don't like it, they can ship it back and we pay the shipping. Everybody said they're nuts.
Thought he was crazy.
And he said, you're nuts because what you're doing, you're going bankrupt. He says, at least we got to try something new. Let's try it and test it. And they're like, they'll take the shoes, they won't fit, they'll send them back, we'll go broke, we'll lose our margin. And he said, you don't understand women. Shoes equal happiness for a woman.
Thank you.
And he says, you know what's going to happen? If those shoes are even close to fitting, if they like them, they're going to go, they'll fit later, they'll stretch out. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to keep those shoes.
I'll squeeze into them.
And I'll squeeze it, and he was so right, and he sold the company for $1.2 billion, and he stayed because it wasn't about money for him. He loves creating a culture, and their entire culture is, we are not in the shoe business, we're in the happiness business.
Right.
And you got to ask yourself, as a fifth element of some of the things I just talked about, you could say, what business am I in? And when you say dentist, no one wants to deal with the dentist unless they have to. But you got to ask yourself, what business am I really in? I'm in the business of creating smiles, wrong term, right? I'm in the business of lighting people up. Whatever it is, you got to find something that is your mission, that when somebody asks you about it, instead of talking about the process, I'm a lawyer, I'm a wholesaler of cars, you say, I actually for a living help people get the finest cars in the world at the cheapest possible price. Now I'm leaning in. I'm a wholesale car guy. How does that relate to me?
Right.
I don't care about the process. I want to know, what am I going to get? When you say you're a dentist, I think I'm going to get pain.
Yeah.
What am I going to get? Well, you're going to get the most beautiful smile of your life. You're going to have freedom from pain. What I do is painless for people. It's going to prevent pain in the future, and it's going to give more beauty. You need to figure out what the story is that'll be so compelling that people want to do business with you. And if you just think like everybody else thinks, you're going to get what everybody else gets. And most people, that's limited benefit.
Exactly. Good points. Excellent points.
Good.
So let's transition into, okay, they take all your advice and they do this, and then the end game. Okay, in your book, you talk about the 401k industry
Yes.
and how corrupt it is, and with the fees and everything that they're just charging people right and left, and the people don't even know what they're being charged.
74%, I think last time I 76%, I'm sorry, 76% of Americans think that their 401k has no fees or the company's paying for it. And it's not true. And the reason they believe that is, if you can imagine this, you have the 401k industry is a multi-trillion-dollar industry that for 30 years, up until 3 years ago, 2014, they didn't have to tell you what they're charging you. They didn't even have to tell you. Can you imagine taking people's money, just taking whatever you want? And because it's so complex, people don't know, so they think they're being charged nothing. And some people say, well, I'm being charged 1% or something. I know what I'm being charged. Really, they're looking at one of the many expenses, because there's usually 17 hidden fees, and they don't even call all of them fees, but there are fees. They're money being taken from you. But to give people perspective, every 1%, the average mutual fund that's in your 401k charges 3.12% according to Forbes. Doesn't sound like much. Most people are investing because at some level they know compounding, that if I compound my money, if I keep reinvesting it, there's a point it starts to grow geometrically. Well, costs grow geometrically as well. So 1% of costs will cost you a decade of your income. So if you're paying 3% for something that I can show you, let's say, for example, you might say, well, where do I invest my 401k? The biggest problem is, forget the fees, where do I even invest? People don't know where to invest. They get all these choices, they don't know what to do, they ask people, what should I do? They throw it in there and they hope it works. Or they look for a 5-star, something that's performing well. Well, if it's performing 5-star right now, it's not gonna be a 5-star later. You're gonna overpay for it and you're gonna lose money. So what we teach people is, I've partnered at a company called America's Best 401k. And I did it because I understood, number one, fees matter. And that, gosh, I can go out and I can pay 1% in fees, or I can pay 3% in fees, or I can pay less than 1% in fees. And the difference in compounding is mind-boggling. I'll give you a clear example. If you had $100,000 and you were 35 years old, and you put it in the market, and say put it into an index fund, where you get top 500 stocks, let's say in S&P 500, and you leave it there for 35 years till you're 60, or 30 years till you're 65, that money will grow. That $100,000 will grow to $732,000, almost 700% growth, if you were paying 1% in fees. If you're paying 3% in fees for the same product, the same stocks, the same exact material, you're gonna have $432,000. And the only difference is what somebody charges, same products. Like, do you want a Honda Accord for $30,000, or do you want to pay $300,000 for it? And it gets worse. So what I want people to know is that fees matter. So if you're a dentist, you gotta know fees matter. Second, you gotta know is the funds matter. Like, where am I gonna put this money? I took this book and literally, I've interviewed the 50 most influential people in the world. I mean, the Carl Icahns, the Warren Buffetts, the Ray Dalios, every single one said, Tony, you got to teach people about their 401k, because for most Americans, most of their money is either in their home or their 401k, and they're being robbed completely. Or even if they're getting decent fees, they're putting in places where they're going to lose, because everybody promotes their market. So here's what you need to know. Funds matter. If you buy a mutual fund and pay 3.12%, you've overpaid, number one, so you're never going to match it. But here's what's amazing. 96% of those funds will never, ever even match the market in a 10-year period of time. Only 4% will match the market or get better than it. You go, I'm going to find the 4%. The 4% changes all the time. There's no way you can find it. The metaphor I give people in the book is, if you play blackjack, do you play blackjack?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. So you get 2 face cards worth 20, and your inner idiot says, hit me, I think I'm going to get an ace. You have a 8% chance of getting an ace. You have a 4% chance of getting the right mutual fund. So what we tell people is what Warren Buffett taught me, and they all taught me. They said, Tony, in the day and age we are today, people need to own the index fund. The index allows them to have the best companies that are available, like S&P 500, but they pay the least amount of cost. Sounds brilliant, except when you go get your 401k, and the big company comes along that does it, they don't offer index funds to most dentists. They say, you're too small, you can't do that, so we're going to give you all these expensive funds that underperform. And they go, oh, we're going to actively manage. They don't do it. The facts are the facts. So what we've done is we show people, and they'll say, well, you can't get those because you're not big enough. That's like saying, well, I can't give you this because I won't make enough money on you. That's what they're really saying.
Right.
So what we do is we say funds matter, and we make available these index funds like, Vanguard and so forth. And there are 401ks. To help you understand this, we created a site called showmethefees.com. If you go to showmethefees.com or America's Best 401k, you can just put in the simple information about your company and it'll come out and it'll show you what you're really paying and what that means over decades, because it costs millions of dollars. And one of my companies, I brought them in, they analyzed it. It was a small educational company I had. They saved $5 million for my employees, and we have all the same stocks. There's no difference in the product. We're just paying 90% less for it than we were before. That's what it is. But you need an index fund so people understand, because you might say, well, I'm getting an index fund. A huge number of 401ks have these hidden fees, and they charge 3%, they call load fee, to get into Vanguard. Vanguard costs 4 basis points. 14 if you don't know what you're doing, for us 4. So let's say 14. 14 versus 3.12%. That's like, do I want to buy the Honda Accord for $30,000 or $1 million for the same car?
Right.
You can have 2 people sitting next door to each other, and one is paying 1,000% more for the same product, because in the financial industry, everything is hidden. So we say fees matter. So we give it one page, shows you the fee, 75 basis points or less is usually what it is, which means less than 1%. Second piece we do is say funds matter. So we want to give you the funds that have performed the highest through every decade and that also cost the least. Then the third thing is protection matters. And protection is, if you're a doctor and you have a 401k, which is really important if you want your staff to do well,
right.
Because it gives them the tax deferral that allows them to grow. But if you're in that position, what most doctors don't know is, if you want a 401k, you are what's called the fiduciary. You are the responsible party. Most dentists don't know anything, and they don't even know what a fiduciary is. It's not part of their training or their background. But a fiduciary means you are legally responsible every single year to compare your 401k to the best in the industry. And if you find yours is not good, you're supposed to do something about it. 99.999% of entrepreneurs of all types, much less dentists, know this is true. It's a new rule from 3 years ago. The Department of Labor, who has this rule, they hired 1,000 more auditors last year, and they reported that when they went and audited people, 70% of the people were out of compliance, meaning they didn't make a comparison that year. And the minimum, or the average I should say, penalty is $600,000. It happens to dentists that don't have that much money even in their accounts.
I could put a small business under.
It does all the time.
Yeah.
So what we do is we become your fiduciary. So what anyone do is go show me the fees, put your information in, and then we run the report. And then you have that comparison to you to everybody else. You put it in your safe and you're protected. If you see the numbers are radically different, which they usually are, we'll exchange yours, put yours in ours, and it costs you nothing to change that piece. And then all of a sudden your fees go down and you know exactly what they are. So that's how we try to attack it, because the 401k is a fundamental wealth builder for you and for your staff.
It's so simple too. I mean, I did it for my business, and Tom,
Tom
hooked me up, yes,
America's Best 401k.
And took a couple minutes, and it's very easy.
Yeah, that's the best thing. It's all done for you. All you got to do is give us a couple pieces of information, then we run it for you and show you what it is.
Right.
And then you say, would I like to save $1 million for myself and my team over the next 10 years or 20 years? It becomes pretty much a no-brainer.
It really is America's Best.
When he told me that, I said, that's a great name, come prove it.
Yeah,
and then
he
when
told
did it
me
with
the story.
And then when I did with my company, I said, my God, you got to take this to the masses. I said, I want to be your partner. Let's get this out there. And then that's when I said, let's make it easy by putting the software where literally you fill in 3 pieces of information. You have an initial report, 2 more pieces of information. We can show you down to the penny what you're really paying, which most people will never know otherwise. And you don't want to get screwed. Ignorance is not bliss in the financial area, right?
No, it's not.
And one more thing, I just want to plant the seed. I don't know if all doctors realize how important the 401k is for its tax efficiency. And there are other tools that we teach also for doctors to go beyond the 401k. But as a base level, compounding. If you take $1 and you compound it every year for 20 years, $1 becomes $1,048,000. So $1 becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes 8, becomes 16. Just 20 multiples, it's $1,048,000. But if you pay just 35% in taxes, which most dentists pay more than that, right? When you combine all taxes in, then that $1,048,000 that you got over 20 years is $28,000. Most people can't even believe. They have to show it to them on a sheet for them to see it's really real. That's the impact of taxes. So when you can make sure that no tax is being taken out of all those years and you accumulate, you're in a completely different position than if you're just doing some things that have normal tax structures. And of course, 401ks are only one of the tools that we have. If someone's accumulating more, there's some additional tools that can be used for dentists as well. And Tom and a group at America's Best 401k can consult with anybody and show them how to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. again, as a business owner myself, I just feel like it's our duty to get that information out there.
I was so grateful because it didn't affect my life. The 401k though for my employees, it completely affects the quality of their life and where they're going to. It could be whether or not they can truly retire, or whether or not they're going to have to go get a job later in life. You don't want somebody being put in that position that's been dedicated to you, especially when it's so easy to fix it. But the industry makes it so complex. People go, why is my 401k doesn't seem to be growing very much? Well, it's not growing because all your profits are being stolen, basically, right?
Well, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, it's totally true.
I mean, a long time ago when I did mine, I was like, is he a nice guy? I mean, I don't know. That was my criteria.
That's often what happens. The person that sold the 401k is the guy that you go golfing with, or a guy that's a friend. And your friend might be sincere, but they're sincerely wrong. and they're not a bad person. They just don't know. They work for the house, right? And the house always wins. So that's the challenge. It's not that all these financial companies are so bad. It's just that they're public companies, and their number one priority is to the shareholders. So they want to make as much money off of you. And when it's your retirement, it should be reversed. It should be fiduciary. I got to put your needs ahead of my own. And that's also, you got to find a fiduciary, somebody who literally is legally responsible putting your needs ahead of their own. And America's Best 401k is fiduciary.
What should we as business owners and professional business owners, what should we never give up on?
Well, I think you have to decide what's most important to you and what are you doing all this for. If you're just doing it for money, it's a burnout for anything. So you got to just ask yourself, what you don't want to give up on is, why did you get in the business originally? What is it you really want? And economic freedom should be clearly one of those things for people, but time freedom should be there also. That's why I work with dentists when they go through business mastery to make them an owner, so they can start to say, I really could have somebody else in some of these, taking over some of these clients. And most are scared to do that initially because they go, that's my income. But we show them how to time it so that gradually you end up getting more income from other people working than yourself. Then you do your best work. It's like the goal is get financially free, not so you never work again. Because if you don't ever work again, you'll dry up inside. It's like when I was growing up, everybody's like, making the money to get rich and retire. So I did that at 26, which was so absurd. And the amount of money I had, I thought was more than you could spend. Of course, that was not true. But what I learned is it's really about making enough money you don't ever have to work again, and then you work harder and you enjoy it more. Steve Wynn's a dear friend of mine who built most of Las Vegas, and he's 74. Peter Gruber, who's here in LA, a friend of mine who owns the Warriors and Los Angeles Dodgers. He owns movie companies. 74 years old, does more today than when I knew him when he was 50. Warren Buffett, 84, 85 now, works harder today than ever more. None of those people have to work. They do it because it's so fulfilling, but it's different when you don't have to work and you work, then you have to work and you work. It's like a different being. So if you can build your business, which we show people how to do a step at a time, like how to grow it 30 to 130%, that's our promise. Our promise on day one of Business Mastery is, if you don't think today's worth $1 million, in your opinion, in either savings through time or additional revenues and profits, we will give your money back on the spot and you get to keep everything you got on that day. No one ever leaves. Because once they see it, they start going, this is simple, this really works. We show them the little things to change that create big changes in their business. Instead of the overwhelming thing of how am I going to grow that much? I got to try and maintain myself right now. So I have great passion to help them. But they've got to put themselves, just like they did when they're studying the dental field. You didn't do it a little bit at a time, you went for immersion. If you really had the money and time and want to learn Italian, if I drop you in the middle of Rome with no teacher for 6 to 8 weeks, there is zero question you're going to come out speaking Italian because of the immersion. You're seeing it, you're feeling, you're around it, you have to do it. That's the way to master something, not take years. Take a week, take 5 days, but get the very best people in the world know what they're doing to tell you that. And that's how I've grown all my businesses. Because today I have 18 companies, I have 12 that I actively manage. We have 1,200 employees on 3 continents. We do $5 billion in sales in 6 different industries. And I had no business background. I'm a kid from Azusa, not far from here, and nobody, my dad was an underground parking lot attendant, and I had no business background, but I had this passion to help people. And then I was this artist, like a lot of the dentists out there, and I wanted to do this beautiful work, but I realized again, boy, if I don't learn how to market and innovate, all these ideas are just going to die with me. And so I developed those skills. And once I learned how to do that, how to do more for a client than anybody else, how to add more value, how to get obsessed about everything you can do for these people, when you do that, you don't have satisfied customers. Satisfied customers go away. You have raving fans, and raving fans stay. And raving fans tell everybody else, and raving fans are what build your brand and what grow you. So those things allowed me to grow in my educational business, and then I just applied those to other businesses. And so one of my passions for professionals, doctors and dentists and lawyers, is seeing them truly get free, because you're not free no matter how much money you make unless that business can run without you. Doesn't mean you don't want to practice dentistry, it just means you don't have to. So now you can do what that guy does. I want to work with people I like, or I only want to do the types of procedures I enjoy the most. And when dentists actually do that, the level of excitement about freedom and financial security and stability and flexibility changes their life. And then they're better for their patients, they're better for their kids, they're better for themselves, and that's my passion.
Right. Hard
but
thing
people
to
need
do.
coaching, because how are you going to do it on your own when you're busy? Keep your schedule's booked solid. You don't know what to do. You got to get out of it, get immersion, and get coached.
Yeah, it gets overwhelming.
Totally.
And it's hard. It's your baby. I mean, obviously your business is your baby.
Yeah.
So when you're giving up that control, and we all know that they can be attached.
But the way I approach it is not control, because first of all, control is an illusion. You don't have control. You have influence.
Right.
Right. And when you get that, your life will change, because otherwise you're always stressed out if you're not in control. What you got to become better is at influencing, but you can't influence someone if you don't know what already influences them. You can't influence your business when you're in it just doing it every day. You got to just take those few days, step out, look at it from a new perspective, get new voices around you, new perspectives, ask new questions, try some new strategies, try some things you've never done before, and keep changing, and you'll find something that will make your business grow. And it doesn't matter what profession, dental profession for sure, because you have a necessity-based business, which is awesome, but you also have a business that people care about. My life changed when I had my dental work done. I used to have a big space in the middle here, right? And I did my first bonding experiences. I'm old enough to remember when I used to do bonding. And that alone changed it. People responded to me differently. I wasn't closing my mouth. I had this big gummy smile, that I've become somewhat famous for now at this stage. This big mouth, right? But what it did was it changed my personality. And more of my true personality came out, because I wasn't, feeling conscious about what I looked like. And I think doctors need to remember that that's where the opportunity for growth really is. If all you are is in the blocking and tackling of, eliminating the problem, then you're probably gonna have a hard time growing your business. But if you do that and the elective, and most dentists I know today do that, but I mean really figure out how to market that, really figure out how to deliver your message about what you do differently than anybody else in the marketplace, then you have a disproportionate advantage over every dentist out there.
I agree. I'm a big fan of that. I kind of have always had tunnel vision with my business.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of what my competition is doing,
Yeah.
but I just want to know what we're doing.
That's right.
And I want to do it the best way we possibly can.
And if you do it better than anybody else, if you're constantly doing more for your client than anybody else, you're going to take business from other people, because they're going to come there. So It's not that complex, but the most important thing is making the decision that says, no more. I'm not going to live in this stress. If you ask me the most important thing I believe, like what is my mission beyond helping people in their business that matters in their lives, I really believe that everybody wants an extraordinary life. Every dentist I've ever met, any doctor I've ever met, every person you've ever met wants life on their terms. Some people life on their terms is 3 beautiful children. Some people it's writing poetry. Some people it's making them $100 million or $1 million, whatever it is. But you got to know what you really want, and then you need 2 skills. And in the middle of all your dentistry, you got to come back to these 2 master skills, because if you want life on your terms, not your idea, my idea, but their idea, you got to master, number 1, the science of achievement. You got to figure out, how do I take myself from where I am to where I want to be? And if you're going to do it on your own, it's pretty slow because you're busy. But if you go in immersion for a weekend or a few days, whether it be me or anybody else, there are plenty of great people out there, but just giving it the focus. Where focus goes, energy flows, and you can start making changes. But it'll never happen.
Stay in your head, you're dead.
Stay in your head, you got to be here. So that there's a momentum that happens when you say, I'm going to go really take control of this. I'm going to really stay focused. I'm going to go in immersion. I'm going to own it. And then you got to get out of your environment to do it, so you're not caught up. And then you got to get people that have succeeded to show you how, and then you can apply it a step at a time. And some things will take longer than you want, but if you get started now, you're going to get there so much quicker than if you keep talking about it or thinking about it or ruminating over what's not working, right?
We got to be careful what we wish for, I think, sometimes. Because you work, you get to that point, and then it's like, okay, now what? Yeah. Now what?
Yeah,
I mean, I was listening to one of your CDs the other day in preparation, and you said retiring is dying.
It is.
I mean, basically dying.
Well, the average person who does it, male, wouldn't be true for you,
Right.
but they die within 5 years of the time to retire. That's the average, the statistical average. Women don't because they never retire because they care about everything.
Because we buy shoes, we go shopping.
No, but they're managing the business and the people and the
Yes.
family and the kids, and so there's never retirement for women. But men, when they do that, they literally die. And so what you want is more freedom. What you want to do is enjoy your life more. If I could give you the advice that's affected me the most, the insight I've got the most the last year and a half, it would be, remember I said you need the science of achievement, meaning there's rules to money. If you follow the rules, you'll have an abundance of money. If you don't know what the rules are, ignorance is not bliss, ignorance is pain, ignorance is disappointment, ignorance is poverty, right? So you gotta know. Same thing with your body, right? There's a science to your body. If you align with the science of your body, we're all biochemically unique, but certain fundamentals, if you violate them, you're gonna have ill health, you're gonna have low energy. If you align with them, you're gonna have an abundance of energy. It's the rules. But what's more important than achievement, and I think most dentists can relate to this if they think about it, is most of them have had like a goal or a dream and then they got there and then their brain went, is this all there is? And that's a gutting experience. Because like when you fail, most of us, and most dentists I know, you know, they care so much, they've been driven, they've made it through school, they're professionals, right? They're not the average person. Professionals have a different psyche. Most of those professionals, they're driven, they're hungry, they're committed, they're gonna find a way, but they're not fulfilled. And I really believe success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. So the second major skill that a human being has to master if they want an extraordinary life is the art of fulfillment, and it's an art. What's gonna light you up, looking at your shoes, is different than what's gonna light him up, even though he's your man. But what I mean seriously is, like, I'll give you an example. Steve Wynn's a dear friend of mine, and I think I shared this when I spoke at Serrano. He's brilliant, because we were in Vegas, and we were around the corner from his place. And so Steve calls me one day and he says, Tony, where are you in the world? And I said, I'm in Sun Valley. I have a Sun Valley, Idaho, kind of a escape ranch there up in a ski ranch. And he said, I'm in Sun Valley. He has a home there too. He goes, it's my birthday. I said, Steve, happy birthday. He goes, you gonna come see me? I said, of course I want to come see you. I know you're here. So he said, hey, when you come, I got to show you something. I have this painting that I've been coveting and I'm making up the time. I think he said 16 years. For 16 years. And he said, Tony, I just outbid everybody on Sotheby's and I finally acquired it. $82 million for this one painting. And I'm like, wow, I can't wait to see it. I'm on my way. So I'm driving there and I'm picturing, you know, what is this, the Mona Lisa? Is this a Renaissance picture? You know, $82 million. It's gotta be the most incredible painting. I walk in his house, he goes, check it out. I look on the wall and it's this red and orange square. If you're in the art world, people know it's called a Rothko, but it's a red and orange square. It's just a square, red and orange. I said, Steve, give me $100, give me 20 minutes, I can do this shit. And he didn't like that. He goes, no, and I was teasing him. I go, no, but I mean, 82 million? He goes, no, the guy committed suicide. I said, well, that must be his blood for $82 million. I mean, come on, right? But you know why I bring it up is, I respect him because he can get $82 million of the joy out of that red square. I'm not sophisticated enough clearly to do that. I don't find $100 of the value in that, but I respect him for it.
Right.
So what I've learned is everybody gets turned on, everyone is fulfilled by different things. The common denominator are two things. You gotta grow to be fulfilled. If you make $1 billion, you don't keep growing, doesn't matter. If you're a comedian and everybody loves you, but you don't keep growing, doesn't matter. You're gonna be miserable. I always tell people you grow or you die, not only in business, not only in your personal life, your intimate life, but in every aspect of life. So the one word that will make you feel happy is progress. If you're not where you want to be physically, but you start working on your body, and even if you're not there yet, but you start making progress, you're going to light up, even though you're not there yet. And when you get there, being thin is not going to make you happy. It'll just feel good to have that energy, you know, and to own yourself in a new way. But some people, they're bored. You got to keep making progress. Progress is everything. And you don't have to be perfect, you just have to make progress. But we make progress and we grow, so we have something we can give. Because when we give, we feel different than when we take. When we give, we feel more alive. People don't realize the secret to living really is giving, corny as it sounds. So here's what I've done the last year and a half. I've asked people, I think I may have done this at Serrano because I just started doing it recently. I said, how many of you feel like Robin Williams was somebody you loved? Because I thought of him as a national treasure. He died 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I've done this with dental field, I've done this in Brazil, I've done this in Beijing, I've done this in Sydney, Australia, I've done this in London, everywhere I go. And I say, don't raise your hand if you like him, raise your hand only if you loved him. And 95% of the people raised their hands and said they love this man. So I asked them then, tell me something, because I want to make sure dentists or business owners get it. Was this guy a master of the science of achievement? Hell yes. He knew what he wanted, and he made it real when everybody said it was impossible. He wanted a TV show, they said there's no way, he did it. He wanted the #1 show. Some people old enough to remember Mork and Mindy. He did it. You know, he wanted to have the most incredible family that loved him. He did it. He wanted to make more money than he could spend. He did it. He made a fortune. He didn't want to make movies. He did it. Then he said, I want to win an Oscar for not being funny, which was not his skill, a dramatic Oscar, and he did it. Then he said, I want to make the whole world laugh, and he did it. And then he hung himself.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
So sad.
Hundreds of millions of people love this. Hundreds of millions of people love this man. He left his children, more importantly, left his wife. Why? Because he suffered every day, because he made everyone else happy except himself. And so I look at that, and I've made a distinction the last 1.5 years. I was in India with a friend of mine, really smart man. He goes, Tony, you always talk about how the quality of your life is the state you're in. If you're high energy, super high energy state, you process problems easily, right? You deal with it. Even if it's a big problem, you can handle it. If you're a real low level of energy, the world's impossible. You don't even start. Well, you know, your mindset says it's not going to matter, because the state you're in, remember I said strategy, story, state.
Right.
When you're in a low state, you come up with a lousy story. With a lousy story, you have lousy skills. You know what I mean? It's like when you get pissed off at somebody, you suddenly remember everything they've ever done that's pissed you off. Or when you're in love, there's nothing wrong with life, right? Because you're in such a beautiful state that your story of your life changes, right? So about 1.5 years ago, I was talking with this friend. He goes, you always talk high energy, low energy, peak state, low state. He said, what if we thought about life this way? What if you thought about life and said, there's only 2 types of states you could be in, and your life is based on where you spend most of the time. There's states we would call beautiful states. Happiness would be one of those, right? But if you only had one emotion, it gets old. Well, humans need variety. Like, in fact, if you've ever been so happy you smile so much your face hurts, you know, you've ever had that. So beautiful states could be happy, it could be grateful, it could be feeling generous, it could be feeling driven, it could be hungry, it could be curious, it could be a sense of awe, it could be love. But when you're in beautiful states of being, no one has to tell you what to do. You do the right thing, and you bring something to the table, because most people are not in a beautiful state. And so you become a force of beauty, of good, of love. People want to be around you. The other states are suffering states. What's a suffering state? Well, if you asked me 1.5 years ago, do you suffer? I would have said, what? I wouldn't have been exaggerating. So, are you crazy? I've got, 18 companies. I have the 4 most amazing kids. I worship my wife. I've got great physical health. I have economic freedom. I mean, I got a mission I love. I got the greatest life in the world. And I was being totally authentic. But I did suffer. But as an achiever, I would never call it suffering. I was frustrated, of course. I was overwhelmed at times. I was stressed. I would challenge to be the nicest word I would use for it at times. And there are times I challenged, there are times I was pissed off, right? And I would have told you before, well, that's part of the process of running a business and being life. And what I found is it's not true. That pissed off, frustrated, overwhelmed, all those things we call natural are not natural. They're a piece of software in your brain. We have a 2 million-year-old brain, and it evolved to make you survive. This brain is not designed to make you happy. Happiness is your job. It's to make you survive. So it's always looking for what's wrong. It's always looking for what you should be afraid of, what you should deal with. And it exaggerates it because it wants to get you so you survive. So it gives you fight feelings or flight feelings. And we don't have a saber-toothed tiger to run from anymore. So now what do we do with this brain that's always on alert, trying to figure out what to do and protect us to survive? We don't need to survive. We're going to survive anyway, but the brain's still 2 million years old. So survival software is running, and it goes, oh my God, what does she think of me? Or, oh my God, do I have enough money? And in this country, even if you're broke, you're the 1% of the world. Half the planet lives on $2.50 a day. So it's not really truly survival, but we make it survival. The only way to have a beautiful life, a beautiful business, is to make the most important decision of your life. What is that? Well, lots of decisions are important. If people watching if I were to ask anyone listening right now, you as well, have there been decisions in the last 5 or 10 years that you can think of, a decision or a couple decisions that if you made the decision differently, you would have a totally different life right now than the one you have? What's one of those for you? What's a decision you've made that if you made a different decision, your life would be better or worse? I don't know, but it would be
If
great.
I hadn't have started my business.
It'd be a perfect example.
If I hadn't have met my amazing fiance.
Yeah. Any of those decisions would change the entire course of your life. So I believe it's our decisions, not our conditions, that determine the quality of our lives. That it's in your moments of decision that your life is shaped, that your destiny is shaped, right? So if you'd asked me 1.5 years ago, what's the most important decision in life? I would say who you spend time with. Who you spend time with is who you become, who you pick to love, who you pick to live with. It shapes your life more than anything. But today, as important as that is, my wife and I both agree that it would be a different decision. And that is, as important as it is who you're going to love, that person could die. That person could get ill. That person could change their mind. That person could cheat on you. They could leave with you. And if I am going to help you to have the most incredible life possible, there's only one way to do it. And that's to decide that you are no longer going to suffer. You're no longer going to live in stress. You're no longer going to get frustrated. You're no longer going to get overwhelmed. And I'm sure people are thinking that's a nice thing to say, but how the hell do you do it? The way you do it is you don't say, I'm just not going to suffer. You realize that this mind is what makes you do that. And you decide life is too short to do that, because if my husband leaves me, if I have this health problem with somebody else in my family, if these things happen, I need to be able to still have a beautiful life, because problems are always around us. One thing I figured out a few years ago is problems and happiness have no relationship. Somebody can have the most intense problems, lose an arm, be blinded, and have a beautiful life and live in a beautiful state. And most people have everything to be grateful for, and they're in a shitty state, right? And, they're worried about things that haven't happened, may never happen. They live in suffering all the time. So what I did is I began to say, okay, how do I get out of suffering? I said, the first thing I got to do is realize I really am suffering, because that's not part of my identity. Second thing I decided to do is life's too short, I'm not going to do that. I realized my happiness was too cheap, meaning all I had to do I have one in my pocket? I don't know, I must have left it somewhere else. All I had to do is pick up my phone to get pissed off. Why? You have 1,200 employees on 3 continents and all these different industries. What are the chances somebody is screwing up right now?
Probably good.
100% someone is screwing up, not now, within the day or two, because when you have that many moving parts and that many different industries, somebody's going to do something I don't think is right or is ineffective, and that's part of the process. So if my happiness depends upon you behaving a certain way, then my happiness can be taken from me so cheaply, so easily. Or if my happiness even be about me being perfect or something. No one's perfect, so I'm going to be pissed off at myself. So what I've learned is this incredible balance between achievement and fulfillment. Whereas I can achieve so much more if I'm more fulfilled, because I happily achieve instead of achieving to be happy. If you achieve to be happy, as corny as that sounds, nothing is ever going to make you happy long term, because there'll always be something to worry about, to be pissed off about, to be frustrated with, to be concerned about. This brain never stops that. So here's what happens. The brain still creates suffering, but I have a 90-second rule. The decision my wife and I made is we no longer going to suffer. So the minute we spot that it's happening, we'll recognize it and we let it go. We recognize it and we let it go. And it becomes like a muscle. And you know what's amazing? Most problems need energy to live. If I come along to you like this and I push on your hand like this, why are you pushing back? I didn't say to push back. Because as soon as you push on somebody, they push back. That's our nature, right? So when you push on a problem, the problem tends to get bigger. Some problems you can solve, some problems you got to just let go of and move on, because the problem is just based on your mentality. Like most people, I bet most of us watching have had, and I'm sure you have, I know I have had experiences where, let's say something happened and it was horrible and you never want to go through it again. Something was terrible. You never want anybody you care about to go through it again. But 5 years later, 10 years later, you look back and go, I don't want to go through it, but I'm glad I did, because now I can see the perfection of it. I can see that made me so much stronger. Now look what I've accomplished with that strength. Or it made me so much more caring or so much more sensitive. Something there that made my life richer. Almost everybody can relate to that. So my view is life is always happening for us, not to us. Right. If we look for the answer, it's there. And I'll give you an example. And it saved my life. In the last year and a half, we started practicing, my wife and I. The level of liberation, the level of freedom, the level of joy and pleasure and happiness that comes when you're determined to be happy no matter what, and you commit to it, and when problems show up, you let them show up, and you give them, you realize this is not going to matter 10 years from now. So why should it matter now? I'll do what I can do. What I can't do, let's let it go and move on. Life is bigger than this. I want to enjoy this moment. When you make that decision and you do it continuously, you get this incredible sense of freedom. So I started having this great sense of freedom, more joy than I've ever had in my life, as much as I've ever had, incredible, and that became like my mission to tell everybody, show everybody this. And I do this in a seminar in a much more elegant way. I'm trying to do this message really quick here with you, because I'm hoping to plant seeds so that if somebody watches you today, my goal would be that they really truly could change their whole life out of this conversation alone. So we've told them a lot of things, but the thing that matters most is not the achievement, it's the fulfillment. Robin Williams had all the achievement you could ever have. He's gone. Now, dentists have the highest suicide rate that's out there.
3 times higher than any white-collar profession to commit suicide.
And the answer to the question is why?
Yeah.
I think part of it is everyone coming to see them, the majority are stressed. They care, they feel that stress.
No one wants to go to the dentist.
No one wants, so you let them feel good.
Yeah.
You got chemicals still in this business, even though they've limited a lot of them that still affect dentists.
Mm-hmm.
Those are significant. So I'll tell you why I bring this up. I start feeling all this freedom, feeling this aliveness. You know, I get hooked. You know, our 90-second rule probably was a 4-hour rule in the beginning. You know, you get better at it and better at it until now you just let it go, let it go, let it go. And you get a life then. You got this joyful life. And then I had an experience, which was, you've seen me on stage, you know, I have this intensity in my arms, and I've been doing this since I was 17 years old. I'm 56. So those 39 years of hammering like that have made the nerves of my arms so sensitive that all of a sudden, about a year and a half ago, I couldn't sleep on my side anymore. So, all right, I got to deal with it. So I sleep on my back, no big deal. Well, sleep apnea, right? Such severe sleep apnea that I went to the doctor and I found out I stopped breathing 17 times in 16 minutes, right? So that's extreme. You know, you're in the business, right? On my side, it's 12 times in an hour. That's minor sleep apnea.
I'm 26 an hour.
Yeah, that's still pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So they give me the sleep app, which is the most incredible sexual attraction tool you could possibly have. Put this thing on your face, like you said
sexy.
earlier. Pretend you're in the Top Gun.
Darth Vader.
Yeah, Darth Vader. You sound like Darth Vader. It's hard to keep on your face. It's like, oh my God, this is insane. And then I go snowboarding, and when I'm snowboarding, I take quite a crazy little jump, and I tear 3 rotator cuffs. And it's painful. I know how to manage pain. And then all of a sudden, it goes beyond the rotator cuffs to nerve pain that just like, on a 0 to 10, it's a 9-9. If I had not had this set of commitments, like, you know, I tell people, you want to take the island, burn the boats, right? I am not going to suffer. The level of suffering would be incredible, because when I went into an MRI, I sit down with a doctor and he says, I just have to shoot you straight. You'll never snowboard again. You'll never play squash again. You can't jump up and down the stage. No more clapping your hands together. Basically, no more life, he tells me, basically, right? Nice. And I'm just sitting here looking at him, and he goes, and he shows me MRI, and he goes, you know, one good hit, and you'll be a quadriplegic. And I'm like, wow, this guy has an interesting bedside manner. You know, this is pretty intense, right? So obviously, I don't take one answer. So I go to a dozen doctors, and, you know, unfortunately, most of them give me similar, you know, types of feedback. And then I find a doctor in Australia who says, I had spinal stenosis. So it traps the nerves in your body. Well, I found this man in Australia, who's a doctor, who uses hyperbaric oxygen. And in the last few years, they found that if they take you to depths, which is like 65 feet of pressure, and give pure oxygen to you, you get 800% explosion of stem cells, and they go to areas of inflammation and heal the body. And he showed me MRIs of spines with spinal stenosis healing over 3 months, 6 months, 100 hours of hyperbaric oxygen. I was like, I'm a guy who finds the answers. I'm like, I'm going to heal this body. And then he says to me, and it's a long story, I'm sorry, but I want people to understand the importance of it, because those watching will be affected by this, I think. He says, well, why don't you get, you know, this inflammation blood test before you fly over to here, so I know if you have cytokines and what's going on, right? Happy to do it. Well, I'm there, the guy doing the blood says to me, you want to do your metals? Want to do a blood metals test too? I said, He said, like mercury? I said, I don't need that. I said, amalgam's taken out 25 years ago. You don't have any mercury. He said, Tony, well, right now, the concentration of fish in the world is at a level no one's talking about because it would kill the fishing industry. And he said, you might want to at least test. I said, all right, let's test it. Doctor calls me exasperated like a week later and says, I got to talk to you. I got to at least need the messages. And it was like, wouldn't leave me any details. I said, just send me the report. He goes, I got to talk to you. I guess they measure you on a 0 to 5 scale, and from 3 and above, it's dangerous. You got to do something. Some states use a 0 to 10 scale. The highest in Florida they've ever measured as a person in these doctors' office is 75. I was 123.
Whoa.
He showed it to 3 other doctors. They didn't know it was me. They just said, how long has this guy been in the hospital? And I just gotten off stage for 50 hours. Meanwhile, I've been feeling what Mercury does is it makes you really exhausted, and it starts slowly, and you just think you're burnt out from your business and all the things that I was using more and more willpower and more exhausted. Second thing it does is I never had this happen in my life. I'd be on stage, and then I couldn't remember why I was telling this story, or what was I just talking about. In my lifetime, I do 50 hours. You know, I do 72 hours in a row, 6 days and nights, right? I don't forget. And it happened a bunch of times, and I was like, I'm only 56 years old. I mean, I can't have dementia. I mean, what's going on here? Mercury creates a dementia effect. A lot of people are misdiagnosed with mercury, and what it really is, or dementia, I should say, what it really is mercury poisoning. And there's so much mercury poisoning in dentists, it's the most extreme. And here's the other thing it does. I'm Mr. Fear and Power Man. I skydiving, firewalking, obviously, all the things I've done in my life. I was like, feel the fear and do it anyway, rock and roll. Mm-hmm. I started feeling anxiety, a feeling I've never had in my entire life, like over nothing, like this fear running through me. And the mercury, as it releases black out of the tissues into your bloodstream as it started detox, produces massive anxiety in you and like bursts of it, like the weirdest feeling in the world. So I've been detoxing for 3 months. It's very painful, difficult process. I've found a process that's less, chelation and things like that, less intrusive. And I'm down to 38 out of 123 as of yesterday.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm starting to feel a little bit more of my energy. That's still like 1,000 times more than you should have in your body.
Right.
But I'm saying this because I want every dentist, these are people that care so much, their family members, it costs so little, you gotta go get your blood and see what's there. Because we live in a place where there's so much lead, there's so much aluminum, there's so much mercury, and much of what we call aging or ill health is actually coming from toxicity in our system, and you gotta know. But the reason I tell the story is, I would have died if I hadn't had all these problems that looked like on the surface they were destroying my life. Like,
right.
If the sleep apnea had not been so bad, I'd never go spend a night in a hospital and have somebody videotape me and stick things in my nose and my head and electrodes and and then
such a nice process.
Yes, it's such a beautiful process, and I sure as hell wouldn't have I went and got PRP and my arm wouldn't even move. The guy didn't do any good whatsoever. So all of this in the middle of the pain, I was able to make the distinction between pain and suffering. The physical pain is pretty intense. What made it worse was the suffering. The suffering was the story, like, why this happened to me. And I've done so much good work, and wow, I should never clap my hands together, and all these stupid stories, and oh my God, will I ever be able to get on stage again and feel 100%, and what's gonna happen to my life, and that's the suffering. This little sharp thing is called pain. Once I separated those two and stopped suffering, I can handle this 100 times better. But when I was suffering, it multiplied the challenge. So I've covered a lot of territory. I don't know how much you'll be able to lead for the people here, but I really,
awesome.
my heartfelt prayer is that this little conversation with us, that some people will look at this, I know all of them won't, and say, wow, the greatest gift in life is not what I achieve, but it's my ability to enjoy this life. And the only thing preventing me is a mind where I believe my own limiting thoughts. And we all have limiting thoughts because they're not ours. They've been around for millions of years. I want to kill that son of a bitch. It's not a new thought. It's not your thought. It's like if I told you 100 years ago you were going to have this little device in your pocket called a phone, and you could pull this box out, and it would use invisible waves to capture someone on the other side of the earth and show them to you so you could talk to them. You'd say, you're insane. We're going to lock you up.
Right.
Well, thoughts are waves. They've been around forever. And they're like a TV set. If I turn the TV to one channel, you're going to get a horror story. You turn another one, it's a comedy. To another one, it's a romance. The way we use our body determines which thoughts we tap into. If you get in a lousy state, you're going to have lousy thoughts, and the lousy thoughts create a lousy state that just feeds each other. And so what you have to do is learn how to break that pattern. And so my fastest way to do that is breathe in my heart, slow things down, because the mind goes fast. Mm-hmm. Breathe in my heart, go, look at that thought going by. Look at that silly thought I was starting to believe, right? And I let it go. And as I let it go, then I focus on something I can appreciate. Because what's wrong is always available, so is what's right. And then whatever you focus on, you feel.
Right.
If you want to focus on all the ills in the world, every generation has found ills that they can make it feel like it's the worst time to be alive. If you want to, you can find it as the best time to be alive. It all depends on what you appreciate. So I'll give you one final example, silly one. So I'm privileged enough to have my own intercontinental jet now, which is just an unbelievable privilege. I can fly anywhere in the world nonstop. But most of my life, I've flown all over the earth, around the circumference of the earth multiple times. And I'd fly commercially, obviously. And if I was going to a place like Australia, it's a 14-hour flight, and I would find stress inside of me, suffering, stress. What was my stress? I'm disconnected from the internet for 14 hours. Got 18 companies. I could be doing emails. I could get this thing done. I'm being cut off. And all this internal stress about going on a plane. It's like when people talk about so stressed to travel, what's stressful about sitting? It's like, come on,
Yeah.
I mean, we forget. People say, oh my God, we sat on the runway for 35 minutes and it was just so horrible. Yeah, after that, did you fly like a plane, like a bird? Did you watch a movie while you flew? A bird can't do that, right? But on this particular day, most people fly domestically. No, you're still attached to the internet. You go, overseas, no internet. God forbid, we're not connected to Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all my emails. So they announce one day, they go, we have internet, And it was like God descended into the plane. People are cheering. I swear to God, some people stood up and clapped. And I felt silly because I didn't cheer and clap, but I was like, wow, this is awesome, you know? And it worked for 15 minutes. And then no more for 14 hours. So what do you think of people's response? It's like, this is bullshit. This is crap. Something that 15 minutes earlier was a miracle suddenly becomes an expectation. Yeah. So what I try to tell people is if you want to change your life, trade your expectations for appreciation and your whole life changes. Because if you can find a way to appreciate any moment, you're going to have enjoyment in your life. And from that state, from a beautiful state of being, you can help anyone. You can solve your big problem. You can't solve your problem when you're stressed out of your mind. And so I look and say, what's the greatest gift you could give your clients, your children, your husband, your wife, yourself? It's living in a beautiful state. But it won't happen unless you cut off any other possibility. Unless you say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, I won't tolerate it, and suffering will come up, the mind will get you going. Breathe, let it go, appreciate. Breathe, let it go, appreciate. And the more you do it, the better you get, and it's like a muscle. Once that muscle's strong, I mean, everything in life becomes beautiful. I know it sounds like hyperbole, but if you really commit to it, you'll discover what it is. And since you're a friend, I want to plant the seed with you, and since all these dentists are so dedicated, and they have a track record as a profession of suffering so much, it might be the most valuable thing we could share with them, that and making sure their economics are solid for them, and then perhaps showing them how to grow their business. And those are my 3 focuses.
That's awesome. I know we have to wrap it up quickly, but I just want to can we just do some really quick word associations? Sure. Can we just do something fun and took care of the business stuff? Okay. So I came up with some I thought were interesting here. Okay. Discipline.
Life. Discipline, success.
Peace.
When you die is the way I used to think about it. Today, the way I live.
Failure.
Not an option.
Courage.
The essence of life, the secret to a deep, lasting, and beautiful life and intimate relationship. Without courage, none of that is possible.
Mr. Cobb. I did my homework.
Yeah, you did. That's very impressive. A moment of grace in my life where a man who was a speech teacher saw more in me than I saw in myself and opened the door for me to be who I am today.
That was amazing, by the way. It really touched me.
That's great.
Wealth.
Freedom, joy, love, the ability to give, a reflection of your intelligence, a reflection of your caring, an opportunity to change the world even when you sleep. Leverage, portable power.
Grace.
God, joy, life, what flows through all of us, what we live to remember and experience, what's always with us but most people disconnect from because they let their mind run the show and forget their heart and spirit.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank
you
for sharing. Oh my gosh, this was amazing.
Thank you.
The movie comes out tomorrow.
On Netflix.
I'm Not Your Guru.
Yes.
Although you're not my guru, you are my hero.
Thank you.
So I thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you. I always enjoy being
Thanks
with you.
so much.